Serious men of Reddit, we hear all about horror stories about how crazy men can be when rejected, but what's been your crazy experience when you rejected a woman? Kinda weird one. I had an interesting start in freshman year of college. I was pretty lonely overall, so I made it my goal to talk to 5 people each day. Just random people out and about, and boy did I suffer for this. I met a girl who was gorgeous, like way out of my league, like I'm playing t-ball, and she is in major league. Anyway, she is awesome and we start chatting, and I get a number. Then she starts seducing me, with money. It worked. It worked really well. She was like, I'll let you use my second car 24/7, no car at the time, that's awesome. You can live with me. I can leave my shitty dorm. Fuck yeah. I remember when we started talking about sex, she got really weird. She wanted me to have sex like 24/7, and I was immediately thrown off like, oh okay, this is some joke clearly. Hahaha, you can stop now. I'm embarrassed enough, but she kept talking about different weird things. They were also awesome, but just how soon we met, how forthcoming, everything was just off. In the middle of our talk about sex, she sends a message saying I miss my mom and sister. What? Apparently she lost her mom and sister in a car accident like a month earlier. Rough news, right? Yeah, it is, especially hearing that when you're an hour into a sexual conversation. She started bringing this stuff up more, like we can do each other's hair like me and my sister used to. At this point I'd try to be nice like, oh yes, that sounds fun. I'd be happy to make you remember your sister. Then she starts saying stuff about kids. Yes, kids, like, our kids. We had talked for like a week, so this was like a no-no for me, especially after she talked about all the sexual things we do, including me not having to wear a condom. I see why now. So slowly but surely I kinda just dropped the ball on how I wasn't interested. Because of recent and possibly longer past events, this girl was a little pie show. I couldn't entirely blame her, because she had gone through some shit. But I'll tell you, I didn't expect her to blackmail me with pictures of my penis. This girl sends me back a pic of my dick I sent over Snapchat. Yeah, I know. It's weird and shit, but shit dude, she fucking asked for it over and over, so eventually it just sent. But she sends it to me with a text, don't want this to fall into anyone's hands, do you? At the time I was a new freshman at a big school where things like frats and shit were important, or at least my freshman brain thought so. At this said school they are pretty big though and whatnot, but this girl straight couldn't take rejection. She ended up mass messaging me daily with little threats and then little things to seduce me. It would go from I'll send a pic of your face and a pic of your dick to your family and to your teachers, to if you stay with me, I'll take you on a vacation to Milan for spring. TLDR, girl seemed nice. Turned out crazy from past traumatic events. Tried to seduce me with money. Almost worked. Got creepy. Tried to blackmail me with pics of my penis. Started talking to a girl on a dating site one Sunday just over a year back. She seemed perfect. Stunning. Intelligent. Chatty and interesting. We met a few days later on Wednesday night, in her hometown, the next town over, maybe a half-hour train ride or so. Wow. Blown away. She was incredible in person, and she was really into me too. We talk about when we are next free to hang out. Turns out we are both free Thursday, the night after. We've had so much fun we decide we may as well. We then proceed to hang out Friday night too, and she stays over at my place. It feels so comfortable and natural, and I can't believe my luck. Saturday, she dashes off to work in the morning. After she's left, I get a series of text messages questioning me about one of my best friends, another girl, who I've known for around 15 years. Purely platonic. I'm estranged from my family and have been well over a decade. My friend is like a surrogate sister to me. I explained this to my date, and after arguing against her paranoia, she seems to accept it. The following day, she calls me. She's distraught and upset, and it's her job getting her down. She feels she isn't being respected and is being taken advantage of. She's already mentioned some of this to me, and she's already told me about her plans to look elsewhere. I remind her of this and explain that despite us only meeting recently, I'll do what I can to help with that. She angrily tells me she doesn't want my help or advice and hangs up. I try calling back, no answer. She eventually messages me later apologizing for the outburst and tells me she was also upset as she doesn't know what my intentions are due to having a close friendship with a different girl. I tell her she needs to let go of this and assure her that I'm very much into her. We decide to hang out Monday night. She comes over to mine again and we order takeaway. Whilst waiting for the delivery, she casually drops in a bunch of racist slurs about the delivery guy. I was a little blindsided and tell her I'm not really cool with that. She gets upset. She reasons that all her family say these things so it's okay, right? I tell her it isn't. We enjoy a lovely frosty evening together and she eventually expresses to me that she doesn't appreciate being treated like a child and told what she can't say. We decide to sleep separate that night and see where we go in the morning. Whilst in work Tuesday, I receive a torrent of messages telling me how upset she is about things, and that she's sorry for what she said, and that she's definitely not racist, and that she really wants to see me again. I ask her when she's free, and she's still in town and free tonight, Tuesday night. She comes over again. She explains she has an important appraisal meeting in work the following day, and she has to be in bed early and up early. I'll let her know that I'm actually doing a late shift in work so won't be getting up until at least a couple hours after she has. She's fine with that. We have a nice evening together and things seem right again, although having disagreements like this less than a week after meeting her is ringing alarm bells. We wake up early Wednesday morning. She gets out of bed to get ready and go and I let her know I'm staying in bed as I don't have to be up for a few hours yet. She eventually leaves. I go back to sleep. When I wake again, I message her to find out how the meeting went in work. She tells me it went awful. She's been crying in the bathroom all morning and not to bother messaging her anymore because I clearly don't care as I didn't see her out of the door like a real man this morning and B, didn't message her sooner to find out what was going on. I'm stunned. This is the 4th time in a week since meeting that we've argued. She berates me for not giving a shit about her, and I bring up how on Sunday, when she called me, she berated me exactly for giving a shit, so I don't really know what to do. We argue by text all day whilst in work, and this proceeds into the night. She brings up my friend again, and her paranoia is on overdrive. She tries to tell me that she's a good-natured person and I've brought out the worst in her, and she hates acting like she is. She tells me she was considering moving to my town to make things easier for us. She tells me that she's never met anyone like me before and that she truly believes in a romantic fairytale future. She tells me I'm not innocent and that I've caused her trouble, inconvenience, and pain. All kinds of babbling contradictions and accusations. I've known her approximately 10 days, 7 in person. I tell her maybe we should just cool off a little, step back, reassess, and give each other a couple of days. She responds by telling me I'm cruel, nasty, and that it's no wonder I'm estranged from my family because why would anyone want to know me? Now, I'm largely over the family stuff. It's been difficult at times, but I've a support network of some really excellent friends. I have, however, never had someone take that piece of information that I'd shared with her in good faith and use it against me to try and put me down. Oh man, it hurt. I told her right at that moment, we're done. She wasn't though. I must have received around 80 to 90 messages for the remainder of Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday, telling me she was sorry, that we are both victims, and that we are both responsible for falling out, telling me to give her another chance, instructing me to respond as it's my last chance at happiness with her, telling me that I owe it to her. I eventually caved and asked her to please leave me alone. Around 80 or 90 more messages. I again ask her to leave me alone and then block her. Peace. A couple of weeks later, back on the dating site. Let's try again. It takes all of about 10 minutes of me being online for me to receive messages from her. She's there. She spotted me and homed in like a heat-seeking missile. She's extremely sorry. She's been dealing with hardship and stress and wrongfully taken it out on me. She's looked at what she said and how she's acted and understands how awful she was. She still insists that I should shoulder some of the blame. No reason given as to why though. She's asking for another chance. I ask her to please let me have some time to think on it and I'll get back to her. She isn't happy with this because it's a simple yes or no and I shouldn't mess her about. I express again, please leave me alone for now and I'll get back to you. Stop with the pressure and the angst. She doesn't relent. She's desperate for her answer now. Again she feels she's owed it. So I tell her no. Boy does she fucking blow up. A tirade of messages through the dating app. And so, blocked on there too. A letter comes, around a month later. Before I've even opened it, I see the address on the envelope has been handwritten by someone unprofessional. I see the postmark is from her hometown, and the weight and thickness tells me there's a novel in there. I get a sinking feeling. I open it to find a 5-6 page A4 letter telling me once again to give her a chance. It's all very woe is me, and she does that peculiar thing again where she flatters me, but also insists I'm to blame. The end of the letter has her number, and to contact her if I've changed my mind. She also says that if I don't respond, then she'll accept it and move on. I don't respond. It's done, as far as I'm concerned. A couple of months later still, a text out of the blue from a number 1 don't have saved. Hey, it's name. Just thought you'd like to know. I got a new job and I moved to your town now. I live on the street just next to yours, by coincidence. Let me know if you want to hang out. I kept all my windows and doors locked and curtains drawn for about 3 months after that. I haven't heard anything since though, thankfully. I think it's over, haha. I'll do my best to remember the details of this relationship I had from age of 18 to 22, but I'm 30 now, and memories can get fuzzy. Here goes. I met a beautiful girl who had migrated here with her family from the Philippines about a year or 2 before we met. I instantly liked her. She was super nice, attractive, and we had a lot in common. But honestly the reason I thought these things is I didn't know any better. After a year of dating her with very minor arguments or disputes we moved in together, and that's when the serious trouble started. We would fight over the dumbest things and she would just take it to a level that wasn't even close to appropriate. They became more and more common and my resentment toward her grew and grew. She would even get physical, spew hateful things at me, make me feel like shit, then in the end, would reel me in with tears and apologies and we'd continue on with our life together. It got more frequent, however, and the severity increased. We broke up a few times, but she would basically stalk me until she could convince me to get back together with her. I think I was just used to it, and I did believe I had to help take care of her. She had threatened suicide multiple times, physically attacked me with weapons including knives. Cops called on me, on her. She's been to the mental hospital for her threats of suicide. She lied to me about being pregnant. She lied about being on the pill and actually got pregnant, but lost the baby at 5 months. Neglected to tell me that she had a child in the Philippines. The stalking when we'd break up was terrible because she tried multiple tactics to get to me. Visiting where I lived, sending her friends over to tell me I need to talk to her for closure, saying she was pregnant, going to my work, and flirting with coworkers and customers trying to get my attention. Oh man, there was more, but I'm getting tired of thinking of all the crap she pulled. In the end I realized that I didn't have the ability to stay broken up from her for forever if she was so persistent. I still feel terrible about what I did next, but at the time I was just so tired of everything. I had been denying going out with a cute girl from work who made it clear she was into me. One night I just said, sure, let's go out. We ended up sleeping together. I didn't go home to her, didn't answer her texts asking where I was, and didn't answer her calls. I broke up with her the next day and my ex eventually found out who she was and called her and harassed her constantly saying terrible things. Then after talking to her one last time she left me alone for good. My misdeed had created a rift she couldn't get over and left me alone, and I have hardly heard from her since. While I don't recommend going through this for anyone, I do hope someone reading this can learn from my mistakes. Recognize the signs early and stand up for yourself instead of losing your worth and getting beaten down. Even if you feel like it's you two against the world, realize that you are worth better and that there are tons of fish in the sea. And if you're reading this and thinking this can only happen to someone who has low self-esteem already, you're wrong. It sneaks up if you're not careful. I was varsity baseball, golf, had lots of friends, and did well in school, great family support. Just be sure to leave that person who isn't good for you behind you, and don't look back. Maybe get a Bumble account and see what's out there. IDK, but good luck everyone, and I hope you find your special someone who treats you right. Does after a breakup count? If so, I was graduating from my masters, had a low self-esteem, and my ex was really hinting that she wanted to get married. I didn't, was super clear on that. She broke it off right before I went to visit my parents for about a week. I was a bit bummed out on the way home, and a couple of days after, then she called and said she wanted to talk when I got back. By then, I had the feeling she would want to get back together if we got engaged or married. And that's exactly what happened. When I got back, she acted like everything is fine and talking about us getting serious. After that, we went, sat down, and told her it was over. I was pissed. She was suicidal. She even ran to the kitchen and got a knife and threatened to slit her wrists. I pulled the knife away after getting cut myself and locked her in my bathroom where nothing sharp was there, and called a friend of mine to give us a ride so I can leave her at her house. At that point, I didn't want to leave her at a cab and act crazy and missing or something. That's not the end of it. It had just begun. Next morning, I woke up to 30 texts and 5 missed calls. I decided to ignore them. It escalated to 40 a day and 20 missed calls for about a week. Then notes in my car. Then a friend of hers started coming to my house to talk to me and say what went wrong and apologizing for her. I told her I would not get back together with her. When that didn't happen, she sent 2 friends of hers to beat me up. Luckily, my friends were in my apartment and they backed off. Next morning, I had 2 slashed tires in my car. Almost missed a job interview. She would stalk me by staying at a cafe across the street from my place for hours, monitoring who came in and who came out and what time. The final straw was when, after about 3 months passed, I had started dating a girl and we went to my apartment to DVD and chill. I got a call about an hour in. It was a friend of mine saying that he got a call from my ex saying that the girl with the brown hair and red blouse, exactly the description, was too ugly for me and she wanted to mess her up. I ended up making her a nice dinner and had a bottle of wine so I could make time for her to eventually leave her post at the cafe. I ended up changing my car, apartment, cell phone, emails, and after that I haven't heard from her since. When I was in high school, this girl had a major crush on me and decided to write me a note one day. She found my picture in the yearbook, but due to a printing error, the wrong name was next to my picture. She had someone give me the note addressed to the wrong yearbook name, and it was just going on and on about how she is in love with me and all that. I honestly thought the girl was attractive. She was weird, but kind of 90s short hair alternative cute. She was 2 grades below me, but I went up and introduced myself, and we became friends. She confided in me one day that she had never kissed anyone, and I said I would show her. Smooth, right? So we made out for a little while at a friend's house, and things were fun. Then things kinda turned. The next day she asked me out, and I said that I thought we were good friends and I don't think going out is a good idea. Let me stop here and say this was stupid teenage peer pressure bullshit. All of my friends thought she was super weird and kind of made fun of me for kissing her. If they weren't around, I might have gone out with her because I liked her, but I'll let my friends get in my head. After I told her that, she burst into tears, like full on uncontrollable sobbing in the lunchroom. I felt really bad because I wasn't a guy who had ever had to turn a girl down. I wasn't some lady's man, and I had been where she was, and I felt terrible. The next few days there were cry-filled calls begging me to date her. That we were perfect together. I worked at Kmart at the time and she would call my work crying. Then she called my house when I wasn't home and talked to my mother and my brother and my stepfather. Then she started calling my friends and asking them to convince me. Then one night she showed up at Kmart wearing a big overcoat with nothing on under it. She had started getting very overly sexual in the sobbing phone calls, saying she wanted me to take her virginity and just getting super graphic. She wanted me to bang her at work in the parking lot when I got off. I declined. Then in her calls she was saying she wants to have a family with me and what our kids would look like, and it was starting to get a little bizarre. I began thinking something is not right about this. Maybe she had mental issues. Her mother eventually got in contact with my mother and asked her why I was harassing her daughter. My mother laughed and jokingly said, "My son is terrified of your daughter," and told her that she legit called 10 times a night. Apparently she had her mom convinced I was the one going after her. Then one day the calls stopped over the summer. No more random visits at work. It turns out she was having some kind of psychotic breakdown. She had made a shrine to me in her closet with pictures of me from where I have no idea and articles of my clothes she somehow got. The breaking point was she had been taken advantage of by a much older man when she told him that I didn't like her because she wasn't sexually experienced enough. I was a virgin, so he offered to teach her some things. She went away to a hospital and I didn't see her for years. Fast forward shot 3 years and I'm at a club and these group of hot chicks walk into the bar area and there she is with them. And she was fucking gorgeous. I didn't know if I should talk to her because I was the cause of her breakdown, so I just took my beer and sat across the room. She was way out of my league now, and her friends were equally beautiful. She spots me about a half hour after walking in and makes her way over to me. She is totally nice and isn't weird at all. We talk for a while and she tells me she went to live with an uncle in New York when she got out of the hospital. Her uncle worked as an assistant to some famous photographer and he discovered her and she started working as a model while living in New York City and going to school. Her friends were also models and they were her roommates and had come with her to meet her family on vacation. Turns out she ended up much better off than I did. I still talk to her on FB from time to time. She is now a mom with 2 kids and a cool little family. And she's still amazing looking. In my sophomore year of college, there was a girl I ran into from time to time. School with 3,000 students. Every time we ran into each other, we'd exchange casual greetings and go our separate ways. A mutual friend told me to be careful because she was really into me. I actually laughed it off because we'd never had an actual conversation and I didn't even know her last name. Big mistake. One night, she showed up on my doorstep, drunk and wearing a short dress, and pounds on the front door until my housemate goes and wakes me up. I was half asleep and she asks me to walk her back to her dorm. I protest, but she insists that she doesn't feel safe and needs me to escort her. I groggily walk her back to the other side of campus, and when we get to her room, she darts in, tells her roommate to leave, and invites me inside. I politely refuse, and she gets more aggressive and insistent. I leave the dorm and start heading back when she catches up to me and says she will escort me back to my place. Most of the trip was awkward silence, but towards the end, she starts complaining about how cold it is. At this point, I'm mostly awake and really annoyed, so I tell her she's acting crazy and needs to go to bed. She didn't like that. It triggered something in her, and I took a flailing punch to the face, followed by scratching of my cheeks, neck, and chest. She was a small girl, and after the initial shock, it was pretty easy to catch her wrists and restrain her. I asked her what she was doing, and she just laughed. I let her go, walked quickly to my front door, and as I was closing it, I heard her asking if I was going to invite her in. After I closed my door, she stood out there for a good 5 minutes before leaving. My housemates were stunned when they saw the scratch marks. It looked like a cat had attacked me. especially around the neck area. There was bleeding and a piece of torn skin dangling. It was such a surprise attack. It didn't hurt when she actually did it. I cleaned my wounds and went to bed. I honestly don't know what to make of it to this day. I've never met anyone like her since. She was overly cheery, kind of a princess type, not used to being told no. We'll call her Princess. So at a college party at my buddy's apartment, she was coming on to me. I was not interested in her. I was much more interested in another girl who was discussing the merits of how taxation is a form of theft with a circle of people playing cards. We'll call her Porcupine. Well, after trying to ignore Princess for 25 minutes, Princess decided I was playing hard to get. She accidentally spills her drink on me and offers to help me dry off. I decline and ask my buddy if I can go grab a shirt from his room. I go into his room to grab a shirt and I guess she followed me because she wraps her hands around me from behind and started feeling me up. I slipped out and told her to get away from me, but she wasn't having it and blocked the door. She then said if I tried to push past her she'd tell everyone I attacked her, and who were they going to believe? This is the scenario every guy fucking dreads. Because she's right. If she claimed I attacked her, there is no way in hell they'd believe me. Native, introverted, computer major guy over pretty popular social butterfly half my size girl. Thankfully Porcupine had come looking for me as it was my turn. And what the fuck was taking me so long to change a shirt? She overheard it and told Princess to get the fuck out of the room. Which begrudgingly she does. But it's the only time a girl tried to coerce me like that. And now we enter Tifu territory. I, believing Porcupine was looking for me for more than cards. Thank you alcohol and impaired judgment. Make a move on Porcupine. Porcupine plays for the other team. I make a complete ass out of myself in front of her. Thankfully she took it well, politely rejected me, and told me her girlfriend would be very upset with her. We went back to playing cards and my face was red as a Coke can. There was this girl, we'll call her Stacy, at work who secretly had a crush on me 2 years before I found out, and she was fired. I guess everything that I'm about to type out here happened because of 2 factors. I was able to take my lunch break early, putting her on my lunch break at the same time, and my girlfriend wanted to have lunch with me at work. I guess Stacy and I talking regularly almost every day is another factor as well. As I was walking to my car to go home, Stacy approached me from behind and asked who was that woman with you at lunch. When I explained it was my girlfriend, Stacy started making a huge deal about my GF being Asian, which was strange because Stacy is the exact same type of Asian, Vietnamese. Explaining that to her did seem to smooth anything over. Feeling confused and seeing no way to recover the conversation, I stated I had to get home and left. The next day Stacy was not there, which was nice because she made the previous day awkward and I had no clue why at that point. The next week Stacy was still not back. One of her team members, Tammy, decided to ask me why Stacy needed to take such a long break. This question threw me off guard and confused me even more, but I answered with why would I know anything about that? Stacy and I only talk at work. I don't even have her number. At this point it was hard to tell who was more confused, Tammy or me. I could literally see the gears turning in Tammy's head as she was trying to formulate her next question. Eventually it comes out. I thought you and Stacy we are going out. She tells us about all the amazing dates you go on all the time. Tammy then proceeded to tell me about some of these dates. These were all dates that I had taken my GF on and told Stacy about. My mouth and throat were completely dry. I felt like throwing up. Stacy had constructed a life with me doing things with her that I do with my actual GF, and then presented this to her team. I told Tammy that I do in fact have a GF, and that Stacy is not her. I pulled out my phone and showed Tammy pictures of my GF and I together. While my GF and Stacy share similar heights and builds, my GF is porcelain white and Stacy is dark. There are other differences, but those are the ones that would be immediately noticeable. Tammy was probably more confused than I was at that moment and seemed to slink away back to her team. Stacy showed up the following week and refused to make eye contact with me when walking into the building, which was preferable at that time anyway. About an hour later she was escorted out of the building by my boss, the head of security. Stacy was clearly pissed off. Apparently Tammy confronted Stacy about her fantasies before Stacy could even get to her desk. Stacy had a meltdown and attacked Tammy. I have no clue why Stacy was obsessed with me and the way she was. Stacy is extremely attractive and fit, and during that time I was a 275 to 310 pound blob. Stacy was making around 75k a year and I'm a security guard barely making 40k. I'm also into really nerdy stuff that I know Stacy has a dislike for, like MTG, Warhammer 40k, and Morgs. But I guess you can't try and fit crazy into a box. Anyway, this all concluded 6 months ago, and Stacy has basically dropped off the face of the earth. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.